There we stood, all around the round table. Well, the ones of us who were left after the war. Most of us drank the pain away. Some of us couldn't cope with it. And others, like myself, had found a new way. It was myself, Joseph, and Julian. The only 3 of our troops left. Others had been killed, gone crazy from the bloody battlefield. Though we were raised and taught to be used to this. This was the life of a Spartan, of course. War was the only thing we knew. Still, we couldn't get used to it. Myself just wanted a home and a family. I never really wanted to be part of the war. Not anything to do with it. Joseph has a family. He used to. They were killed off during the war. Their homes burned to the ground with his family inside. And Julian, he used to be bloodthirsty. Or so he thought, until he stepped onto the battlefield. We were successful in defending from the enemy troops and running them off. And we killed almost all of them. The battlefield was bloody. Corpses were on top of corpses. Their skin and flesh rotting, vultures eating upon their carcasses. This was one of the many images stuck in my head. Do you blame me? We sat, all 3 of us around, our goblets in hand, ready to make a toast. I figure for us still being alive. We were lucky to make it through the war, or the gods had wanted us to. And we drank, we laughed, and hours had passed by. We all had gotten rather tired of just sitting around, so I'm going to go to bed, sleep, go back to main camp the next morning. I lay in bed that night. Usually, I myself would fall asleep quickly, ready to awaken early in the morning. So as if we were all attacked, I could defend, though. It was also paranoia which got to me, I figure. This night, though, I had an unusual feeling, a knot in my stomach, or a lump in my throat, you could say. I tried to sleep it off, but as soon as I almost fell into slumber, something just had to happen. Bang! A loud noise echoed from within the dining hall. We were just in. Another, and another. All 3 of us rushed out, only adorned in our undergarments. The door had been knocked down, laying on the floor. Nothing was there. No one but ourselves. We all 3 looked at each other for a few moments until Julian broke the silence. "Krieg! Joseph! Check each room in the tower. I'll arm myself with a weapon and post guard here." We simply just nodded our heads. Julian was the head of our division. Soon, we armed ourselves, dressing in armor with a weapon in one hand and a shield in the other. I walked upon the corridor, as did Joseph. He and I, both consumed with fear that it could be an enemy invasion. We checked upon each room until Joseph had signaled for me to come here. He was peeking his head around the corner into a room, one I had never even been to. He stared deeply until we walked in. I only approached slowly, though I should have ran in there faster. Before I could follow him in, the door shut quickly. For the last few moments Joseph lived, you could only hear his terrified screams for help. I couldn't break down the door. He screamed. Oh, he screamed. It still echoes in my head. And after he finally stopped, the door finally shattered. Wood stabbed into my forearm and broke into pieces all over the floor. There lay Joseph. Well, I wouldn't say lay, really. His body was set on a sharp pike, sticking up from the ground. However it got there. However it got in there, who would put a pike in a room? The pike itself looked as if it had been molded with the concrete. And Joseph's was too. I only blinked. After seeing his bloodied and mutilated body, the next moment I looked back, he was a piece of art. A statue, almost. and the pike, or how most would see it as a pillar, had turned him into a statue. I immediately ran from the room into the main dining hall. My mind was filled with terrible images of all the ways Joseph could have died. How terrible it must have been to see his death before his eyes. I ran to Julian, my voice trembling at the same time I screamed, "Julian! Joseph has been turned into a statue! Sir, we have to get out of here now!" "Excuse me, Krieg. Did you say a statue?" "None..." Before I knew, he had been lifted off into the air by some shadow-like figure. It was enormous, with wings and a long devil tail. Once again, another pillar had been placed onto the wall. Where did these pillars come from? The demon stabbed Julian onto the pillar. No, it wasn't immediate. He tortured him, slowly pushed him onto it. Blood oozed from his mouth, and the demon clawed into his arms. Then, like that, they were both gone. The demon, the pillar, and Julian had all disappeared. Where had they gone to? I turned around only to see 3 pillars standing in the middle of the room. One with the face of a demon. The other 2 with my comrades sculpted into them. I stepped closer and closer until I got to the pillar of the demon. I stared into it. The hood, which had no facial features. This was until a face had appeared, one just like my own. It laughed almost, it seemed, an echo booming through the room, and everything went black. I awoke sometime around noon the next day. Everything was somewhat the same, though there was only 1 pillar. No bodies were left behind. Had it all been a horrible dream? I stumbled in, my legs were weak, my stomach in a knot. The pillar had seemed to lure me in. I got closer, and a strange aura had surrounded me. My eyes must have been deceiving me. I had looked upon the pillar finally within the close range of it, and writing was etched into it, all kinds of writing, languages which had long been forgotten, but I understood it somehow. It seemed I was this monster all along. The foul demon I had been fated to this. I'm writing this to the world, still alone in this labyrinth. My sanity has seemed to have been lost, and only I can find it. Though I question if I ever will. Until then, I shall remain within this place, all to my own, facing this demon, conquering the unholy wickedness within me. Writing the scriptures of past upon these walls, etching figures into these pillars.